Hello everybody, my name is Aceface. Today I wanted to show you the Zealot doing T4 Abyss. So this is a fit I made and I think it is working pretty well so far. I've not done extremely extensive testing, but in the testing I have done, it's been very successful. And this is obviously on the test server, it doesn't cost 9,000 ISK, it costs about 520 mil, something like that. So that's an alright price, I would say, for T4 running ships. I've seen people do much more expensive T4 running ships than that. So it's also something a bit different from the typical Gila fit. So if you want to maybe not be the sheep that just does the same thing like me, just Gila, then maybe you'll want to try this out, or at least in the test before you bring on Tranquility. And that's what I'm going to be trying here. So I'm going to do the T4 electrical because the capacitor bonus and the reduced EM resistance capacitor bonus makes us able to use these dual reppers without much capacitor modules, and we do obviously EM damage with these beams or these pulse lasers. So then it's very favorable to be able to do that in the electrical side because of the reduced EM resistance. I'm going with pulse lasers. The thing is, pulse lasers, they have short range, but the Zealot is like the long range heavy assault cruiser. I've realized that all the heavy assault cruisers of all races, they have like two types of heavy assault cruisers. One is the tankier one, and then there's another one which is like a snipey one, which is in this case the tanky heavy assault cruiser of the Amar is the Sacrilege. This one here. This beefy ship here, it's got bonuses to armor resistances, but this on the other hand doesn't have bonuses to armor resistances, but it has bonuses to the optimal range of these energy turrets. So that helps because we're using the pulse lasers. Pulse lasers is going to have short range, but they have high damage and good tracking, so we're again able to be using them more flexibly because they're going to have increased range now. So that's why I'm using pulse lasers. Also, pulse lasers have good fitting requirements, a lot easier to fit other things like tank and that kind of stuff. So we're going to go and activate it straight away. You can see here with the Scorch, got the 30 kilometer range, that's pretty good. And then with the Conflag, I'll have like 17 I think. So we've got some alright range. I would almost say this is like an XL Retribution, like a larger Retribution, because I usually use beam lasers in the Retribution fit. This is using pulse lasers, so you get like similar range. It's a bit shorter than the Retribution, but it's almost the same. And the Retribution has no problem really with its range, so this shouldn't have much issue either. This is one of the easier waves, the Rogue Drone frigate waves, and what I actually usually would do is I'll just stay here at range and just blap them with these pulse lasers when I get into range. So I'm just going to use the MWD to get in close a little bit. I'm going to start locking these guys up. I'm going to hit brake, control space, boop. You see that? He's almost dead now. And then we're gonna go back here and then just kill them. You can also, another alternative is to go in and Webify them with the Conflag, but you miss a lot, I've noticed, and this feels a bit easier. But you can also try that, it works as well. If you can get good angles on them, you can actually like one-shot them with the Conflagration. So you can see here, 440 DPS with the Scorch, the long range ammo, but with the Conflagration I have about 600 DPS, and I have heavy assault cruisers to level 4. If I have a heavy assault cruiser to level 5, then I'll do crazy DPS. It'll be like 700 DPS. And also I forgot to say that I'm not using any implants. You can see here no implants and boosters in effect. And it's that's also one thing that's quite good about it, because my Gila fits often have these like high grade crystals that boost the shielding capabilities, but with this Zealot it doesn't use anything. It just the ship and nothing more. And the heavy assault, the damage control is also very useful for Abyssal gankers, because Abyssal gankers, they will often camp people's filament traces, and they will just gank them with tornadoes. But if you use assault damage control, you'll have a slightly higher likelihood to survive, because you'll get a very big buff from that. Obviously not guaranteed, but it will increase the chance that you'll survive, especially compared to a Gila, which has a lot less EHP. You can see here, if I go in the fitting tab, then I activate my assault damage control, 50k EHP, so I mean that's alright right there. Okay, now I'm going to switch to Conflag because these guys are getting pretty close. I'm using a blinked out Webifier. You can see this for Webifier right here, the 14 kilometer one. And while it's not like mandatory, like I could probably get by with a Tech 2 one, the 4 kilometers extra range really helps a lot with this weapon. You see that one shot with the Scorch, because the thing is, like often stuff will in the Abyss, I've noticed, orbits about like 12, like average, like the sleeper cruisers, the rogue drones. It's very common that they'll orbit like 12 kilometers, 11 kilometers, and it's very frustrating with when you've got your Webifier that's 10 kilometer range and you won't be webbing anything. So those 4, even though this is quite expensive, I think it costs like 70 mil this module, it's really worth it to have it, because it just, those 4 kilometers do make a very big difference actually, especially when it comes to stuff in the Abyss, just because of the AI targeting of them. Okay, let's go to the next wave. Another good thing about heavy assault crews is not only do they have the assault damage control, which is very good for the, you know, the gankers, it's also got bonuses to Microwarpdrive signature radius penalties. So it's going to be able to sig tank a lot better than Nagila with an MWD because of the reduced like signature radius. Okay, so what have we got here? We've got some null warpers. Let's go for these guys first. Start shooting this guy. We should be able to face tank most of these guys. Shouldn't be much an issue right here. I'm going to Webify this guy right here. You can see here we've also got the reactive armor hardener. This helps a bit with the with like adapting over time to the tank. So the more time goes, the more tank we're going to get. It's a very useful little module right there. And we're actually being really badly tracking disruptors. It's going to reduce our application actually. So we're going to we've got the multi-body tracking pilot here, which is actually very useful actually, to be able to hit stuff. These things are not particularly small, so we won't have so bad issue with tracking, but it helps always a little bit. I'm gonna go here, and then you can see here our tank is pretty stable, and it's just going to get more stable over time because more stuff is going to get destroyed. But that's also something that's very nice with having the assault damage control. If you do make a bit of a mistake, it's like not at all punishing, because you'll be able to, you know, recover. I think it's like 10 or 15 seconds. You are able to be almost invulnerable. Like, it's not invulnerable, but it's almost invulnerable, and that is, like you can see here, look, our tank is going back up. And but if it was to go like down, then we could always just activate it, and it'll be, you know, it'll be very chill for us. We can maybe reposition ourselves or kill a few more and reduce the DPS a little bit more. It's just very useful to have that. I could have an energized multispectrum membrane here, which will give me a more EHP per second, like essential like tank, like when I'm not using this. But so it's a tiny bit less inefficient when I'm not using the assault damage control to have an assault damage control like this. It does give some resistant bonuses, but not as much as an energized multi-spectrum membrane. And but the utility of the assault damage control for gankers, for just spicy moments that you make a little mistake, I feel like that's worth it, and that's why I'm going with an assault damage control. Otherwise, if you feel like you will never have to activate this, then it'll be better that you go with an energized multispectrum membrane 2, or even a faction one if you've got the ISK to spend on that. You'll get more EHP per second when we're not using it. So I don't really worry too much about these spearfishes in this wave, because it's just sleeper crews. They're not doing particularly large amounts of damage, so it's not like I really need to speed tank anything. If this was a Charybdis Tyrannus wave, I probably would have gone and taken out the spearfishes first, so it's a lot easier for me to get an orbit on Charybdis Tyrannus. I don't think I could face tank Charybdis Tyrannus just like that, like just stay at 0 and just take flat hand damage, but I could almost do that. And it will, but what I would do is, if it was a Charybdis Tyrannus wave, I would orbit at like 500, and for me to get at orbit to be able to, at that point where I can orbit at 500, I will need to use my Microwarpdrive. Otherwise it's going to take a really long time, and probably I'll maybe take critical damage before I actually manage to get to the Charybdis Tyrannus orbits, like this close range orbit. So what I'll do is I'll take out the spearfishes first, or the ones that can do the null warpers, the ones that can do warp scrambling. Okay, you know what, I'm going to switch to Scorch now, because I want to grab this loot here. Actually, to be honest, I don't need to grab the loot, but it feels like this Zealot is pretty fast, so I'm just going to grab it anyway. Like, sometimes when I'm doing these tests, I often don't go for it just because it just takes unnecessary time. It feels like it's just a waste, because it's anyway, tests what does it matter if you take the loot? But in this case, we have time, so it's alright. Okay, now I'm going to switch back to Conflag. You see, this is what I mean. The Webifier really helps here. You can see this guy's at 11 kilometers now. This guy has already been webbed, so he's very close, but it'll be hard to catch this guy when he's going like at the range he's going. So trust me, if you try this, you could, if you want yourself, you can go on the test server, try with a Tech 2 web, then try with this 40-kilometer Federation Navy. It'll be so much better with the Federation Navy. It'll feel like, oh well, 4 kilometers, well that doesn't really do anything. It does, man. It's really, really helpful. The stuff, there's just so much stuff that likes to orbit outside 10 kilometers. They're just very cheeky, these rats here in the Abyss. They like really know that, oh, the typical guys and the typical capsuleers, they go carrying the Tech 2 webs. We're going to orbit outside 10 kilometers. That'll be good. And that's pretty much what happens. It'll be hard to lock stuff down, especially frigates. But with the Federation Navy, no big issue. Okay, so we've got a lot of tanglings. I've got a lot of ghostings here. I'll go for that one ghosting first, just so we have maximum tracking applicability. Also, I don't go for the extraction nodes. You could do that with an MTU, but honestly, I think it'll take a bit too long. You could maybe, if you have them in good positions, you could just go for them. Travel with the MWD. That's also a possibility right there. Let's just grab this adaptive cache right here. Ooh, that was two of those yellow filaments. The yellow filaments, the chaotic and the raging, they tend to look pretty impressive. Just seeing them. Ooh, look at the yellow filaments. It's nice to see 2 of them. I don't think they were particularly expensive though. The Firestorm and the Red Dark. Okay, the Dark is alright, but the Firestorm is not much. These Vela waves, honestly, no issue absolutely whatsoever. It's just so easy. You can just face tank them. They're a lot easier version of the Triglavian waves, and you can see here we've got 83 explosive resistance just with that one, just with the reactive armor hardener and the assault damage control. And you can see here it's still not fully spooled up. Can you see here the resistance is shifting a little bit? I think it's shifting. No, it's not shifting now. It's fully shifted out. Okay, yeah, you see, yeah, it's shifted a little bit of the EM because we're taking a bit of mixed damages here. But the reactive armor hardness helps so much because you're going to be just tanking like a crazy Hulk after a few minutes or a few seconds of these cycles of reactive armor hardness. It's just going to make you tank so much. Actually, I'm going to go for the Vedmak because the even though these are Vela waves, I don't want to spool up. The standard Vedmaks, obviously, I would go for the Vedmaks first because they do a lot of damage. But the Vela ones, I don't worry too much about them. But I'll just kill this guy just in case because I don't want him to spool up. Now, this is an annoying thing. He's 15 kilometers, but I can web this guy. So honestly, it would be better if I had like in a 15 or 16 kilometer web range. That would be ideal. But there are those webs, I think, that they do this really good range, but they're crazy expensive. They're like hundreds of millions. I think there's an officer web that oh wait, actually no, I can't actually grab them. I would have to use Scorch on this guy, but I'll just take out these tanglings first since it doesn't seem like our tank is having so much issue anyway. But if this was there's a lot of tanglings, so I'll take them out first to be able to get to the Vedmaks later. The officer webs, like those ones that drop from those really rare NPCs in nullsec, they can have they can, I think it's way about a 25 kilometer range, just absolutely crazy, and they reduce the velocity by 70%, I think. If we go here, oh, we can't open the market. Okay. Yeah, because they don't have any market in the Triglavian space, obviously. If we go here into the Webifier, and we're going to Officer, let's just shoot our Webifier and Pulse Lasers. Gotan's modified Webifier. That's a lot of power grid, actually. What is that? A lot of power grid on that Webifier. 90 kilometers, minus 60%. Hakim, 18 kilometers. Mizuro, 70 kilometers. See that Tobias. Okay, no, it's not 25 kilometers like I said. It was 20 kilometers, but it's and it was only 60 kilometer reduce. So it's basically the same as this web, but instead of 14, we get 20 kilometers. This is still pretty good web range. We're able to web anything. That'll be perfect for this Abyssal running. Unfortunately, it goes for many billions, I think. So that's not an option for me, at least, unless I somehow become an Eve trillionaire and somehow able to completely avoid Abyssal ganks, then maybe I would use it. But even then, it just feels a bit unnecessary. It seems like with this Zealot, at least, I'm doing completely fine. And then with the Federation Navy Webifier, the feds, they know how to make their Webifiers, the feds. There's also a yeet cloud over here, the so-called yeet cloud, the grey clouds. They make your velocity go really fast, and just be a bit careful of those. I mean, you don't have to worry too much if you're in a cruiser. It's mainly if you're in a frigate. If you're in a cruiser, you'll obviously go really fast. Just be careful that you don't go outside the boundary box, the unstable abyssal depths. You will die if you go too far out. But if you're in a frigate, going in one of these could be a death sentence, because you'll very likely, or it's very easy to just get flown out of the abyssal depths without paying attention. So that's the Zealot doing T4 Electric Abyss. It seems to work really well. I haven't had any problems with it so far. No implants. Relatively cheap, 520, 530 mil. Give this a shot on the test server if you want to try it out, or even Tranquility if you're feeling like it's a ship for you. Hope you guys enjoyed this little video right here, and if you did, please leave a like and subscribe. I'll catch you guys later.